who try to present themselves as a little bit, cleaner and neater and more controlled, I will automatically assume that they are sublimating some really horrible shit, and most of the time they are. So that's sort of the thing that I get from San Diego. It's like they, really want to present a very clean, controlled situation, except for Old Town. Old Town, they kind of, let just evolve naturally, but the other downtown part is very controlled, and that always kind of makes me nervous, I guess.
Well, as you can tell, we've gone live.
Oh shit! No, I didn't know.
Oh yeah, we got live. What the hell? Why not just put a big surprise on everybody? Welcome to Reason Speak on Thursday. I'm sorry, I got it. May the 28th, 2015. Today's show has the word Mormonism in it. I'm not quite sure how and why, but we will find out because we have Steve with us today. Hi, Steve.
Hey there. Hey, Sidney.
Steve will explain to us exactly why he has an interest and I believe an incredible hatred for Mormonism, and I'm looking forward to finding out why. We also have Hillary, who is an ex-Mormon.
Hello.
And now is on our side. Woohoo! And she will be providing some insight. And then we have Oki, McCree, and Ryan, and myself, who are here to really just learn and I guess figure out what Mormonism really is. So, and that's Jenny in the background, if you can hear her barking. She's my atheist dog. So, Steve, we were talking later on. We were talking, and you mentioned that you'd read all the different sort of Bibles or stories, and you read Mormonism as well, and you particularly hated Mormonism.
No, I don't hate Mormons.
No, not Mormons. Mormonism, the Book of Mormon. That's what you said, right?
Yeah. So in a year and a half, it started out, I was Christian, and I wanted to get into proselytizing. So I figured that the best thing that I could do was actually read the Bible, since I'd never actually read it. And so I spent the first 6 months reading the Bible, and by the end of it, I realized, I don't believe in that anymore. I got into really studying it, going to all the Bible groups, but I read the Quran twice, became a Muslim for a little while, and that didn't work out either. And that's when I decided I was atheist. But I wanted to read the Book of Mormon, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, a whole bunch of other religious texts, and out of all of them, Book of Mormon was the one that I really hated because it seemed like it was a genuine fraud, and I didn't give it a second thought for a while until just a few nights ago. Do you have any other questions?
I do. I have a lot of questions, but let's focus on the Mormonism part of it. Did you believe in a God anyway, no matter which way you went? Because you mentioned that you were a Muslim for a while, so where did the actual God or the Creator sort of stand in your way of in your thinking?
Well, when I gave up Christianity, I kind of cognitive dissonance where I was like freaking out that I was like, okay, no, a God exists, but I just read the entire Bible and studied it and found all these problems, and so that's why I looked to Islam. Was Muslim for considered myself Muslim for about 7 months, And whenever I read the Quran a second time, that's when I realized that there was stuff in that as well that I knew couldn't be plausible, like the moon being split in half, and there's no evidence of that. Noah's flood still is in there, no evidence of that. So that's when it dawned on me, and I gave up that too. So it was like a goal to realize that I couldn't find truth in any religion.
Oh, okay, that excellent. I'm going to switch to Hillary because she's got something to say. Go ahead.
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. Right. I have a question for Steve. What happened a couple of nights ago that made you focus? I am so sorry. That made you focus on Mormonism.
Well, I have a website that I go through and I try to thoroughly investigate different parts of religious texts. When it comes to the Bible, I try looking at the Hebrew and the Greek and what they mean. And I hadn't gotten around to the Book of Mormon yet because I was having a lot of fun with the Greek, the Hebrew, the Arabic. So I was having a lot of fun with that. But then I had seen some people talking about Mormonism, and somebody had said something like Masonry had to influenced Joseph Smith, and at the time they were all really anti-Masons, and so I didn't know what he was talking about, so I started looking into it, and I saw some verses in that whenever I saw the anti-Mason movement, it had to do with the typical Masonry stuff, like secret signs and code words, secret meetings,
Luciferian stuff.
What?
Luciferian stuff.
Well, I don't know about that. I know that a lot of these things. It kind of jogged my memory about the Book of Mormon, so I looked at it again, and I just typed in secret handshakes and secret signs in the Book of Mormon, and I came to the Book of Helaman, and I saw something in there that it said hold on, let me bring it up. They were one son of another son. Let me bring it up real quick. This one thing sparked, kind of set it all off. Okay, Helaman, who was the son of Helaman. And they were talking about judgment seats and all that. And so I was like, well, judgment seat, that sounds like president to American. And I was like, well, Helaman, son of Helaman. And then it dawned on me that we had two presidents who had the same name, which was... we had John Adams was one of our presidents, and then John Quincy Adams was also his son. They had the same names, and so that kind of set it off, and I realized that there was something there. And so I started looking at the Book of Mormon and paying attention to the dates, and things just started kind of adding up, and I was going through and plugging in which president was which and what the time frames were. So right now I only have the second chapter of Helaman kind of mapped out, because that's where I started from. I'm going through and trying to get the first chapter and fill in the rest of the blanks. So that's what did it.
Well, just to give you a little backstory of mine, I hardly remember very much of the Book of Mormon. I read it, but mostly because I was pretty much forced to in seminary in my tweens. And personally, I think as a direct result of the fact that I have Asperger's, I was reading this stuff and the Bible as well in a different way than the other kids were. It's like, you know, I was breaking it down logically. I was taking notes. I was reading, you know, ahead of what the teacher was telling us to read, because they were constantly skipping over, you know, really uncomfortable parts, but I would read all of it and take notes and ask questions. Yeah. And so honestly, I don't remember a whole lot of the Book of Mormon because I found it to be incomprehensible. And when something is incomprehensible, it doesn't find a place in my brain, so I can't remember it. I just like immediately say, okay, until this makes sense, it's not going to stay in my head. So unfortunately, you know, I'm not going to be able to go back into Mormon doctrine, you know, in a literal sense. I can only explain what those ideas, you know, did emotionally and psychologically to myself and to the people around me.
I have some questions. Do you remember the names Helaman and Gadianton?
Helaman, no, but Gadianton, yes, I do remember that. I don't remember the context, but that name sounds familiar.
Okay, so Gadianton is mentioned in the Book of Helaman as running against, for the judgment seat, running against Helaman, the son of Helaman. Now, it talks about 42 years of the reign of the judges in peace. So, if you look at, well, what year was Helaman, son of Helaman, running against Gadianton for the judgment seat? Well, from
Adams, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. From extrapolating that data, we know that it's talking about the year 1825, the election of 1825, and Gadianton represents Andrew Jackson. Now, right. So so take the year 1825 and you subtract 42 from that to find out what the first year of peace of the reign of the judges is. It's 1983. What happened in 1983, and I had to do more research on America.
1783.
Or 1783, my bad. You're
That's
right.
Okay.
I had to do, even though I'm American, my knowledge of American history is not all that great, so I had to do some research. And I found out that September 3rd, 1783 was the end of the American Revolutionary War, the signing of the Treaty of Paris, and George Washington stepped down as commander-in-chief. So that is the 42 years of peace in the reign of the judges up until the election of 1825. And Andrew Jackson was considered, during this time, Andrew Jackson was considered to be the enemy because he was a Mason. And what had happened in 1824, no, hold on, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I mixed up the election of 1825 and 1829. So the election of 1829 is when Jackson and Quincy Adams were running against each other. So what had happened was, if you look at the year that Joseph Smith first started writing the Book of Mormon, it was 1827, and he published it in 1830. Well, what happened actually 1 year before Joseph Smith started writing the Book of Mormon in 1826 was the Morgan Affair. That's where William Morgan, who was a Mason, threatened to publish a book on the secrets of Masonry, and he was arrested and then disappeared. And this is called the Morgan Affair. So that was 1 year.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it was 1 year, and if you look into American history, you'll see that near the beginning there was a party called the Anti-Mason Party, it specifically sprang up because of the Morgan affair. And now, to some people, this might sound like I'm diving into conspiracy theories because I'm talking about Masons and all this stuff. No, I don't buy into any of that. I'm just talking about historical events. Yeah. I'm just talking about historical events. 1826, Morgan Affair, the Masons, the rise of the anti-Mason party. 1827, Joseph Smith started writing the Book of Mormon, included this information. In 30, actually published it, and the Book of Helaman goes on to say that Gadianton won the election. So clearly, that section was put in there after Andrew Jackson won the presidency.
That's interesting.
Jackson won the presidency in 1829. The Book of Mormon was published in 1830.
1830.
So it wasn't a prophecy. It was writing what had happened.
Well, and that's typically what he did. Plus, what he was trying to do was frame his own political career in a prophetic kind of way, because, I mean, he actually did want to run for president. I don't know if he actually got his name on the ballot, but when it was clear that wasn't going to happen, he literally wanted to start his own country and be president of that country.
Joseph Smith did?
Yes. Yeah, look it up. This is still when they were in Illinois. Look it up. He
in Nauvoo, Illinois.
In Nauvoo, yeah.
Well, I'll definitely have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Before I put it up on my website, before I publish it, I'll have to definitely look into more of that, and because I go through and I verify and I re-verify stuff before I actually publish it. Except for what I'm doing now. What I'm doing now is all original research with the Book of Mormon, because I haven't found any other websites that go this thorough and in depth. So
I haven't come across the correlations that you have made before, and I find it very interesting, because I always just separated, in my own mind anyway, the politics from the religion of Mormonism, even though I knew that they wanted to make their own theocracy, and he wanted his own country after he realized that he couldn't, run for president. But he seriously was considering and trying to run for president of the United States. And he was a Mason, and the vast majority of the temple rites are Mason-based. That is just a fact. Now that some Mormons have been talking about the temple rites and telling people what happens there, which back in my day, in the 60s, in Utah, is like, you do not fucking do that.
Well, I know that the Book of Mormon was published in 1830, and Joseph Smith became Mason in 1842, which was 12 years later. So, yeah, so that happened whenever one of the other Masons turned his church in Nauvoo, turned it into a lodge, and then the very next day made him a Master Mason. So I don't know, if maybe he had a change of heart, if he was initially anti-Mason and then became a Mason.
I'm not sure about that, but I do know that the temple rites were laid down, later than the publishing of the Book of Mormon, because they still hadn't, put down the temple laws until the Nauvoo temple. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, before.
But I know that it came later in the religion. It wasn't that they started off with these simple rites.
May I ask where you got the information that Joseph Smith was trying to run for president?
Just from various Google searches, trying to look up, the history of Joseph Smith. And there was one painting in particular, or more of an etching, actually, of, him with a sword on a horse, and the person who was writing about it attributed that to the time where he was running for president. And I seem to remember them posting, I don't have the link, but I might be able to find it. I seem to remember them posting, a contemporary either poster or newspaper announcement that he wanted to run for president. I'm sorry, I don't have that at the fingertips, and I certainly can't verify it, but it didn't surprise me when I came across that information, because he was a megalomaniac.
Well, that's fine. I'll definitely, like I said, now that I've found something that's actually interesting about Mormonism, I will be doing more research into it.
I'm not sure how relevant it is, other than, to go to the man's psyche, honestly. But yeah, it's worth researching to find out what can be verified.
Well, can I ask Sidney or Ryan, have you guys found any of this interesting, or any questions or any arguments?
Well, Ryan has had to leave, but I am fascinated. This guy, Joseph Smith, is like the biggest fraud and as Jenny says, huckster going.
Well, confirmed. He was arrested and convicted of what is the term? Shit, I can't remember the term.
Fraud of some
Well,
sort.
I'm sure that the Mormon Church will deny all of that and say that it was a what's that called? A smear, campaign smear.
Yeah, it was persecution. Basically, he was going around to farmers and, using his vision stones to tell them where either pirate gold or ancient, Native American gold was buried. He was a treasure hunter.
I need to run.
Frozen.
You've lost your audio.
Oh, I wasn't sure whether that was me, but yes. Frozen. Oh, he's moving. Okay, that's why.
I'm sorry about that. I'll be just 1 minute.
All right.
No problem.
No
Yeah,
problem.
You guys go ahead and chat.
Okay. I'm just fascinated by what I want to know is, more than anything else, is how did he get away with it? How does he still get away with it?
He got away with it initially because this is a really complicated story.
Okay, let's not even focus on initially, but let's focus on now. Let's focus, say, on the last 100 years. Let's say, I don't know. When did it start? 1830.
Yeah, technically, the religion started in 1830 when he published the Book of Mormon, but he had followers before that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when it just kind of blew up. And really, the basic explanation is that he was a very charismatic person, like all cult leaders. They find a psychological and emotional niche that they can, then control and build on from that. He was also, raised in the time, in the early 1800s on the East Coast, when there was just a religious fervor. Tons of, you know, tent preachers were popping up all over the place. And it was going, you know, religion was going crazy because it was finally sort of, you know, allowed to. There wasn't a state-sponsored religion, so then religion became a competition.
Mm.
And it just went batshit crazy while he was growing up. There were, you know, tent meetings of people, you know, falling on the floor and speaking in tongues, and there just was a social religious fervor at that time.
Okay.
And he was able to absorb that, understand that he could create that kind of fervor if he wanted to, that he just needed to provide a framework. So and he was a psychopath.
He was a what?
Basically, he was a psychopath. He was a megalomaniac and a psychopath.
Okay, so he was murdered by a gang of people who apparently found him in prison and killed him. He was that much of obviously was a psychopath, but okay, he's murdered for obviously trying to crook somebody out of something, and yet still Mormonism.
From my understanding, the final straw with him, because they had to, you know, leave several places. They actually were persecuted, and, you know, because of the polygamy and, you know,
And
when that started, and the bullshit factor. So it's like, you know, they actually were persecuted and kicked out of places and raped and murdered in Arkansas and blah 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 blah. But the final straw that happened in Illinois was that there was a local newspaper who said something against him, and he fucking flipped out and told his henchmen to go in and destroy this newspaper. So that's how it all started, basically. And then the town just decided to lynch him, because at that point they were full force polygamy, and they were, you know, going after young girls to bring them into the cult. And the people were just like, no, that is really fucked up. But the final straw apparently was him, you know, burning down this newspaper.
So they moved to Utah.
Arrested for that, and then the mob just decided to go and kill him.
So who moves to Utah then?
Brigham Young. Brigham Young was, you know, in the upper echelon of the church, and actually initially he didn't agree with a lot of the stuff. He had a really, really hard time with polygamy in the beginning. He was just like, I would much rather God just come down and kill me than to marry another wife. But later on we find out he didn't really have a problem with that. But the burden of taking care of these people just suddenly fell on Brigham Young. So, and he realized that they couldn't stay where they were. They had to go someplace else, and the only place that nobody else wanted, basically, was the Deseret Territory.
Mm-hmm. So, go ahead,
Oh, I was going to ask, are there any religions that do not support polygamy? That don't, you know, that completely condemn it?
Well, most of the fundamentalist religions condemn polygamy, except for the fundamentalist Mormons, of course.
Well, no, I mean, because in the Quran it says that you can have multiple wives if you treat them fairly.
Yeah, it says that in the Old Testament as well.
Exactly. It says that it gives you instructions on how to treat your future wives.
Yeah.
And so, so there's Judaism and by default Christianity, Islam, Mormonism. I don't really know how Hinduism, but I was just wondering if there were any religions that specifically condemn polygamy.
Like I said, the only ones that I know of are the fundamentalist evangelicals, because they say that we are under a new covenant, and it's one man, one woman, based on one tiny part in Romans, I believe, where Paul is saying what Jesus told him in a vision, not what Jesus, the human being, said while he was on the planet.
I do remember Jesus also made a quasi-reference when he said, when he quoted the book of Genesis and said, "Therefore, a man shall leave his wife, and the two shall cling together and become one flesh."
Yeah, but there's another one in Romans that makes it much more clear that we're talking about one man and one woman, but I believe that came from Paul as opposed to Jesus, and it's a mushy thing, but the fundamentalist evangelists have decided to focus in on this one man, one woman thing, regardless of whether they have the scripture to back it up.
So disregard the Old Testament.
When it's convenient. When they want Leviticus, to say why they hate the gays so much, then they'll bring up Leviticus. So, they're very cherry picking fruit farmers when they decide to be.
Were you about to say something, Sidney?
I was. I just lost my train of thought there.
You lost your mind?
I lost my mind. So, I'm trying to pick up the history of this of Mormonism. Why was polytheism so looked so frowned upon when it's so prolific in the Old Testament and in the Quran?
Well, there's also actually some kind of mentioning of polytheism in the Book of Mormon, going into
there's tons of it. Oh my God.
Going into like the books of Abraham and Moses. I remember all that, and somehow it's also still a monotheistic religion. Basically, if you can contradict.
But why was it frowned upon by other Americans or other religions when it's so accepted today in the Muslim religion?
I have a pretty quick answer to that, because in Mormonism, Jesus is not God. Jesus is the Son of God. And in evangelical beliefs, they believe in the Trinity, that God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit are all one entity, basically, akin to water, where water can be ice, and water can be water, and water can be vapor. So that is how they get, the Trinity all together in one neat little package. But the Mormons didn't do it that way. The Mormons have it where there is this one, main creator, and Jesus is his son, and Satan is his son. Well, they don't call him Satan, they call him Lucifer. And one son pleased God, and the other son didn't please God, and that's where all of the trouble started. But they also, strangely, in temple rituals, refer to God as several different people. See, they sort of see that God went through the same process that we are going through in a physical state, and that he attained his place because. it's really hard to explain, and that's another reason why I got kicked out of seminary, because the circular logic that they had just made my little ASCII brain literally blow up.
Right. Okay, I did actually have a point. I remember now. Steve.
Yes.
You have pretty much proven or shown the Book of Mormon to be a fraud, right?
Have you read it, Sid? It's unreadable.
I know. I have started reading it. I read the first chapter. But you've pretty much shown historically that it is a fraud. I'm just wondering if...
No, I've shown that there is an extremely strong parallel between a chapter of it and American history, but just like you can't necessarily attack a section of evolution and say, oh well, hey, I disproved it. There's still work to do. I've still got a lot of deciphering to go through, but basically, yes, I feel confident about it being a fraud.
Well, if the claim of the book is to be the inerrant word of whoever, of some deity, and you prove one thing to be fraudulent, then you've pretty much proved the whole book to be fraudulent.
Well, until I can draw many more parallelisms with American history.
Right. But my question was, has anybody else drawn the same inference, and is there some kind of a movement to actually look for instances where, like you have found historically, that you can show some hanky-panky? Are you saying that your next move forward is to find more of these?
Yes. Yeah, instances? Mine is usually whenever I come across websites that attack Mormonism, they're usually Christian apologetic websites because they want to convert people over to Christianity. And so, I see a lot of Christian apologetic websites trying to point out different geographical contradictions, but I haven't come across the thorough analysis that dawned on me, which is why I went on ahead and did it. Now, if somebody out there has already got a full analysis of the chapters, then that would make what I'm doing kind of pointless. But yeah, this was just this stuff started dawning on me, and now I'm researching American history to fill in the gaps and to figure it all out.
Do you know about the Mountain Meadows Massacre?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah, you need to research that. That has it has nothing to do with Joseph Smith, aside from the cult that he started. But this happened in Utah, where Mormons basically killed a whole pioneer group that were on their way from Arkansas to California. And one of my ancestors, Josiah Gibbs, wrote one of the first contemporary exposés of the Mountain Meadows massacre situation.
I'm really not following any of this. What did you say the name of it was called?
Mountain Meadows Massacre.
Okay, yeah. I'll look.
I'll send you a link of the book, but
okay.
It was a horrible scandal at the time, and put the Mormons back on their heels, big time.
I need to get a link.
Basically, a result of that, because they had murdered all of these people, and it was proven that they did. They had to stop with the polygamy, and the federal government was going to go in and say, it's like, all right, we're taking over. But the Mormons were ready to have a war with the federal government. And after the Mountain Meadows massacre, they gave up. Yeah.
Sidney, did I answer your question about the research and looking into Mormonism and all that?
Well, I'm just wondering how many other people are doing the same diligent type of research that you've done. I mean, what you've uncovered is I think it's groundbreaking stuff.
Well, you know, I've only been through a few of the Christian apologetic websites where they're attacking Mormonism, so, but, you know, I haven't seen any of them. I feel like maybe they can't take their mind and sort of transfer their mind over to him because they're thinking biblically. So when they look at the Book of Mormon, they look at it according to the Bible view. And you have to be able to change your mindset in order to see something the way somebody else would see it. Yeah. In order to really understand. So no, I don't. But you know, if this leads a whole bunch of people into getting involved, that would definitely that would help to get rid of one religion.
Well, would you be interested in keeping us up to date with anything you find?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we could chip away at Mormonism and leave it in ruins behind us as we move on.
The only task is you know, atheists know about all the contradictions and errors in the Bible and the Quran. Some of us know about the stuff in Hinduism and other religions, but you know, usually the followers of the religion don't actually get the information, or they prefer to live in the matrix. So I guess the challenge here is getting the information to the Mormons so that way they are able to understand.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to be putting any links that we discussed, anything that we discussed today that I can get a link to will be in the in the YouTube detailed section after the show. But Kevin, I'm back to Steve because you're the interesting one, because the fact that you tried Islam intrigues me. Tell me before Islam, where were you at? When you were 14, where were you at?
When I was 14, well, when I was 13, I went on a missions trip to Romania. As with my church, we were a non-denominational Christian church, and you know, I was very into it. I was one of those kids that would go to vacation Bible school, and I felt obliged to fall back because I saw everybody else falling back.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what some of the fundamentalist churches do, they sort of get the group mentality, and you know, everybody's expected to pray in tongues, and if somebody walks behind you, then you're supposed to fall back into their arms, and then they let you down on the floor, and you're supposed to be there like you're overcome by the Holy Spirit and all this stuff. And it's just like, looking back on it now, I realize that, you know, I was kind of letting them kind of dictate what my own humanity and spirituality was supposed to be.
So do you think they were trying to take your thought process away from you?
Not intentionally, because you know, I feel like they are in that mindset. They are living in that sort of matrix that they've created, well, that their parents created around them, and they've reinforced in themselves. So I don't think that they were doing it intentionally.
Okay, so how long did that last?
Well, until I was 19, I tried sharing Jesus with my roommate, and yeah, I had never actually fully read the Bible at this point. He did. He agreed to let me share Jesus with him if he got equal time, and you know, he was a very good listener. He he was actively listening, and so when I was done, he got his turn. And at first, when he was showing me all the contradictions and the errors, I thought he was taking it all off context, and I got really upset. But you know, I stayed in Christianity for another couple of years. January 6th, 2013 was when I decided to actually read the Bible, and it took me 6 months to actually fully read it. I was going to all the Bible studies, and somewhere like mid-2013, that's when I gave up Christianity. So, that's a life story.
Congratulations!
Yes.
For being true to your views, true to your principles.
That is a really common story. Christians pretty much across the board who have not read the whole Bible and asked questions don't ever leave that mindset. It literally takes reading the whole Bible and trying to put it into context, and very few people actually do that. But once you've done that, there's a very good chance that you will at least leave Christianity, if not become a full-on atheist.
So in this case, we went from Christianity, which is what you predict, but we didn't go to atheism. We went to Islam, didn't we? Ah.
Well, the Abrahamic God. Anyway, so yeah, it would be natural to go to either Islam or Judaism. Did you try Judaism? In the Torah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Well, and you do realize that the things that are attributed to Jesus and what he said are all hearsay, because apparently for the people who believe that Jesus was God came down to this planet to try and give us a message and didn't bother to write anything down.
Okay, now I'm confused about who wrote the Bible.
I actually came across people in seminary thought that the Bible was written in English. I'm not kidding.
You mean they thought or they knew?
Well, they thought that they knew that the Bible was written in Elizabethan English and that everything else was a translation from Elizabethan English.
Okay,
and
really?
They were absolutely shocked when I told them, it's like, you know that the original text here in the Old Testament is not in English, and the New Testament is not in English. English is a translation, and they were just like, ah. And there were also a lot of people who thought that Jesus was the only person to ever be crucified, and my brain, again, just like blew up. Like thousands and thousands of people were crucified.
Crucified long before.
What are you talking
long
about?
before Jesus' time. Yeah, exactly.
But that is how sheltered these people were. Mustard seeds. Oh, okay.
Either way, either way, Jesus fail.
Well, it's like, I don't want to slam Jesus out of hand. Of course, I do not believe that Jesus was a deity. I actually think, from what has been attributed to him, I just think he was an awesome revolutionary.
I don't even think that Jesus existed. I think Jesus is a concoction of a whole bunch of people who used to go around maybe preaching and
that could be true as well. Like I said, whether he existed as a person or whether what he said is attributed to one person or 100 people,
right.
It doesn't matter to me. I'm taking him as a character, and as a character, just like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. If you take this person as a character, I think that character was an awesome revolutionary and changed how people saw some really inhumane ways of treating human beings, which is the Old Testament. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which a lot of that was forged, by the way.
From what I understand, there's two instances. One for sure is a forgery. One is agreed upon to be a forgery, something like that.
Yeah, but my point is that I see Jesus as a character, and I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The belief in this character did change the world. I'm not saying that it's for the better. I'm just saying that it changed the perspective of a bunch of Bronze Age goat herders. Oh, yes, you're right. Iron Age. Well,
when did the Iron Age start? Hold on.
It depends.
No, it doesn't. When did the Iron Age start? No, approximately 500 BC.
I agree with you. I concede. I concede.
Okay, 500 BC. When did the Iron Age start? Well, when did the Iron Age finally trump the Bronze Age?
Well, and the reason that I make that distinction is because I see a lot of what the Old Testament has been derived from Sumerian culture. So that is why I bring it back that far.
Interesting. Now, Sumerian culture, as far as I understand, is the earliest we actually have of written records. Is that correct?
Yes, there are earlier civilizations that we're coming across, like Göbekli Tepe, But there isn't any written language. Everything is animistic. But yeah, the Sumerians are the first civilization that we have records of a written language of. It doesn't mean that there wasn't anything before that necessarily. It's just that that's what we found.
Okay, so Sargon of Sumeria, is that correct? Am I correct in that he was like the first, I don't know, emperor, say, or something, king?
Yeah.
I think that's about Sargon, the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we're focusing on Mormonism today. We have 5 minutes left before we will close the live section. I do want to know if we need, I feel that we need to continue this discussion, and we could do this next week. We could do this whenever you're both free. Up to you. What do you feel? What do you guys think?
I would like to do that. I would like to do some more research based on the information that Steve has, and I would also like to provide Steve with a little bit, more of the information that I have access to.
Okay, so you make sure that you guys are connected.
That fleshes out the culture surrounding it, as opposed to the actual minutia. I think that's what I can contribute, especially as an Aspie, is showing the cultural connections based on what I have looked into and the reasons that I looked into the history myself. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is research, not next week.
Oh, it doesn't take me very long to do research. As soon as we friend each other, Steve,
make sure you
we can throw links back and forth. We might be prepared to go into like excruciating detail next week. Well, and it's awesome. Your perspective. I've never come across your perspective in attaching it to U.S. history before, and I find that really fascinating. And I've never done that research before, and you're doing it, which is awesome.
That is, no, this is just. I love it. I feel like I'm breaking a story here. It's great. I really do.
It's not going to. It's not going to change the minds of any of those people who are indoctrinated, because they literally are told that if you look at alternate views, you are in very big trouble. So this information is really only going to help those people who need to give their family a reason to leave, who already want to leave, and I think that is a valid reason to put some energy into it, because I feel really sorry for those people.
It looks like we have a volume problem, do we, with Steve?
I would chalk it up to an anomaly.
How about
I wouldn't worry about it too much if it's only one complaint.
Can you hear him now? I don't know how long they haven't been able to hear you.
I can hear you.
Well, we'll see. Maybe in the processed version, in the archive, maybe we will be able to hear it. But we're going to wrap it up anyway. I want to thank everybody for watching, but I also especially want to thank Steve for making me aware that your ideas exist, and I want to thank Hillary for coming along exactly when we needed you, Hillary. Awesome. And
I'm happy that I could do it. I had to juggle some things around, but it seemed like a really interesting, important conversation.
Excellent. And thank you, Oki, for your support. Oki McTree.
You know it, sir.
Oh, we love Oki.
You know
Of course we love Oki. So you have been watching Reason Speak on Secular TV. My name is Sidney Winston. I have a link on YouTube. I don't do much on it. I'm also Ask an Atheist. I have a link on YouTube. I do a little bit more on it, but not much. So we will see you again next week, every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. To everybody out there, stay secular, be secular. Bye-bye.